Hello and welcome to the Box Score Network NFL Draft Show. My name is Simon Shortt. Joining me tonight is Ben Parker. Ben, welcome back in, man. How you doing?
I am doing great. We have worked so hard all year on this. The night finally came and went, and we're here to talk about it. So I'm doing great.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't match the energy that I needed to on that one. The NFL Draft first round just happened, Ben, and it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. Um, Shout out to Austin on our YouTube channel, running the shorts, reacting to. I think he reacted to every single pick and put a YouTube short up for those. Check those out for live updates, live reactions to each pick as they came through the ticker. Ben, you and I though, we're gonna work our way through this thing essentially 1 to 32. We'll try to keep it light on most things when we can.
Yeah.
If you are here for the first time, if you're just like, I had a great time with the first round of the draft and I'm gonna plug something into YouTube and see what pops up, and this is the first time you're seeing us, welcome. Subscribe, like, comment. We are not done. We are gonna be covering this draft from all angles every way we can for the next few weeks. We'll take a couple weeks to do some silly stuff. And then we're going to start getting ready for the 2027 NFL draft. So if you love the draft, this is where you need to be. And if you're just here because you want to know how others feel about this specific night, well, then, hey, welcome. Maybe tag along, though, because you're going to want to be ready for next year, too. So, Ben, Fernando Mendoza goes one to the Raiders. Nothing to say about that. I was sitting there getting my daughter to bed, and I was like, when the first buzz went off in my pocket, I was like, what if that trade does happen? What if that trade does happen? Because we're getting the tweets about the
Yeah.
fireworks, and I was just, but nope, nope, chalk there. David Bailey, chalk to the Jets. We've been talking about that for the last 2 weeks now. Cardinals take Jeremiah Love. Um, this isn't completely out of left field if you've been watching and listening to things for long enough, but I don't think I ever really thought it was going to happen. Cardinals obviously could have taken an offense tackle here, obviously could have taken Arvel Reese here, obviously could have traded down from here. And considering the Chiefs made a trade to the top six, you think, okay, could somebody have gotten to three here, even if they took a little bit less than they should have to go to three? But what did you think about Jeremiah Love going to the Cardinals?
It surprised me. I liked it. I think a lot of people did not like it, but I'm totally fine with it because I realize how good Jeremiah Love is, and the Cardinals had more than one need, so this fills a need and helps that offense get better. I will say the Jeremiah Love thing, it did really surprise me though, because if you go back to say the end of the season when we were covering the draft already, and then you go back into say January, you were hearing more love to the Cardinals type stuff, right? But the last 2 months, it's really been exactly what you said. It's been almost completely all Arvell Reese or David
Hmm.
Bailey or offensive tackle or trade out. That has been the vast 98% flood. The love to the Cardinals stuff had really long evaporated as far as anybody taking it seriously. So it did surprise me, but I don't have any problem with it.
I obviously, I mean, if this is your first time here, I'm Mr. Anti-running back. I'm Mr. Running backs don't matter. I can spot a great running back when I see one, but you can just look at the lesson I quickly learned on my own big boards because last year I had Ashton Genty top five. And I do my big boards a little bit different, which you'll understand. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna grade the player and enjoy the player. And Ashton Genty's great. And then he has the terrible year with the Raiders because they were not ready. I also don't think the Cardinals are quite ready. I don't think they're quite as bad off as the Raiders, and I think they're going to have a more modern offense and a more modern running system. I think there's a better blue chip talent on the offensive line, at least in terms of one spot. For the Cardinals, having Paris Johnson Jr., they signed Elijah Wilkinson in free agency, signed Isaac Seumalo, so they at least made, I think, enough baseline level moves to say, okay, we beefed up the line. We have this veteran quarterback. We have a couple veteran quarterbacks, and we have this coach that can put some good run stuff together. Maybe this can work. Um, but my positional value thing isn't even just always tied to money. But when you see that Jeremiah Love has the most guaranteed money of any running back contract in the entire NFL right now, and you're also like, oh, they also gave Tyler Algier $7.5 million this offseason. I'm like, I don't know, man. I just wouldn't have gone the other way. But to play a devil's advocate, I did say in the War Room series there's so many players on this roster still on rookie deals that I'm like interested in seeing what they are. So like I didn't need Arvel Reese or David Bailey here yet. If you think Love's the only other blue chip guy that's truly here, okay, fine. I would have preferred to trade back. I don't quite hate it as much as I thought I would, considering what else they did to the O line and free agency, considering those guys aren't the blue chip tackles that we would normally want. But I still probably would have liked to go the other way. All right, Titans 4, Carnell Tate. What'd you think with
Yeah, once
Arvel Reese
again,
on the
the
board?
the Carnell Tate thing to the Titans was something that was happening a lot back in the late in the season and in January. But again, a lot of that had evaporated. The past few weeks, we were hearing love to the Titans was a real thing, and then we were hearing well, they're just going to grab one of the Ohio State defensive players, whoever's sitting there was a real
Hmm.
thing, you know. And I'm sure they were thinking about it. But at the end of the day, you know, they decided to put in Carnell Tate and help out Cam Ward, and I'm totally fine with it. You know, the Titans really honestly could have made about five or six different moves that I would have been totally fine with. This was one of them.
I loved getting them. I loved them getting Reeser Styles just as the Fred Warner stand-in. But I also love Tate. I have him as a top five player, and a huge position of need helps Cam Ward. I think this is a great pick.
Yeah,
Um, we then get Arvell Reese to the Giants. Giants Twitter is aflame. Then, I mean, a few years ago when they take Thibodeau and Evan Neal, and now they walk out with Maui Noah and Reese. Um, the comparisons are too apt. Uh, but one of the
yeah.
biggest things I'm seeing is everyone saying, "Oh, Reese is, they got another edge rusher. They got another edge rusher. This is a fourth edge rusher because they're not trading Thibodeau right now." It was obvious though when they made the pick, they're like, "Oh, he's an off-ball linebacker for them right now." And I think Joe Shane came out and said as much. He's going to
I
play
think
off-ball
so.
linebacker next to
Yes.
Tremaine Edmonds. We'll move him around a bit, but he's going to play next to Edmonds. And I even said that like Reese, I love because I think he can be just a really good off-ball linebacker, even if you don't ever make him an edge rusher. So how'd you feel about Reese to the Giants at five?
Yeah, I was fine with it. Again, they could have made different moves, and I would have been fine with it too. I did like it. I like Reese. I really do feel like the key here for the Giants is that you have a hardball coach and a hardball coaching staff that, you know, at a certain point, man, we can all make draft picks that people like. But man, if the coaching staff doesn't scheme it up, then it's just not going to work. So that really is the key, no matter who they picked here. But I do like Reese, and I'm with you. I think it's going to be at linebacker, and then they'll rotate him up into some edging at times is probably the plan here. And I think I like it, especially you know knowing the way the Giants have historically played defense and the way Harbaugh likes to play defense.
Yeah. Um, just looking at this, not that I ever think this way. I don't think you really hardly think this way. But if we just look back at our top five of this draft being Mendoza, Bailey, Love, Tate, Reese, even as you sit here right now, just those five names being the top
Yeah,
five of this draft, how do you feel about that?
yeah, I'm fine. That's what five of the eight that we kept constantly rotating around, five of the
Yep.
nine, whatever, something like
Yep.
that. Yeah, I'm totally fine with it. So
Yeah, I think we're in good shape so far. Then at six, we get the trade down. The Browns wanted to trade down. It had
yeah,
been highly rumored and highly reported and speculated for weeks at this point. They trade six to the Chiefs for 974 and 148. The Chiefs trade up for Mansour Delane, cornerback out of LSU. Take that from either team. What do you think about that trade and those pick and that pick?
I'll stick the Chiefs here. My heart hurt a little bit. I really, really, really wanted them to pick an offensive tackle. Okay, I just
Yeah.
really did. Fano or Malano, I didn't care which. Just grab one. Let's
Hmm.
get that back to where it was 4 or 5 years ago. Let's move on with this offense. Let's keep Mahomes safe. They didn't do it, but I tell you, they had a player in mind. They went and they
Yep.
got him. You know, I have no problem with that, and I love Mansour Delane. So you know, how can I fuss about that? I really can't. So totally, totally fine with it.
The rest of the draft is going to be huge for the Chiefs, right? Seeing what else they do because man, we kept looking at that pick 74 for them and saying, okay, that could still be a useful player, right? That's your Ted Hurst or Jacoby Lane or whoever. Like you can get a
Right.
receiver there, or maybe you get one of those corners there because this is a team that develops corners so well. It's kind of like when the Packers took Jordan Morgan a couple years ago, and I was like,
Yeah.
they develop offensive linemen so well. Why are you using a first round pick? And not only do they use a first round pick, this rare top 10 pick that they have that they never have, but they
Yeah.
add more picks on top of it to trade and get another guy. And I like Delane. I really like Delane. I think he'd be a very good corner. But I'm also not doing that for a corner when I'm this team and I have these guys that are already in the building in my secondary and I let all these
Yeah.
secondary guys go because I just do whatever. I would rather them have paid Trent McDuffie and not even gotten an extra pick and use this pick on something else, you know?
Right.
Um, if we're going to combine it with what else they did in the first round real quick, they take Peter Woods at 29. I don't know. Would I rather have no Peter Woods, but Trent McDuffie sit at nine and take Spencer Fano there, or if not Fano had gone, take Maui Noah there. I don't know. Maybe keep McDuffie and Maui Noah and just pay McDuffie. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not as I say it out loud. But trading up for Delane, I actually I wouldn't have even liked it had they sat at 9 really and taken him, depending on who was on the board. Like go receiver, or this straight up. We'll talk about Tyson in a minute, but Tyson was going top 10. Go up and go get him. Um, get the edge rusher. Just get in the corner. That doesn't quite sit right with me. But Delane's a good player. So if they walk out of this okay, and they took the defensive tackle, so if they consider that their pass rush, and then at 40 they get a receiver we like, then maybe we walk out of this thing thinking we're okay for the Chiefs. But I guess my Jalen Moore agenda lives on. Anything else for you on the Chiefs? What do you think about? We can go ahead and do Browns. Browns trade back and get Spencer Fano. They pick up, like I said, a third round pick and pick 148. How'd you feel about the Browns trading back and still getting Fano, the first, or yeah, the first offensive lineman off the board in this draft?
I loved it for Cleveland. I really kind of sort of didn't think anybody was going to get them out of six. I
Hmm.
figured they were kind of sort of stuck there and we just have to make their pick. So the fact that they got a deal and still got a player that I approve of, I heartily approve of what they did. So I kind of sort of thought they'd have to stick at six and get the guy. They got to move back to nine and get the guy. So good for them.
And Fano, the first of one of my beloved players going to an AFC North team. That's real tough. I think I even said last night, like, congratulations on your Joe Thomas career. Going to be a lot of 6-win seasons in your future, but maybe some All Pros too, and you'll ride off into the sunset. So that left or right, they're going to move Fano to left tackle, I assume. So that's going to be Fano, Zion Johnson, Elton Jenkins, Tevin Jenkins, and Titus Howard left to right, which, like, not awful. Not bad if Jenkins, or if both Jenkins or even one of them can be healthy, they'll get through the season. So it's not a bad place to start, I guess. Anything else for you on the Browns or Chiefs trades or picks?
I will say because you and Shane are even more on this than I am, and I'm kind of on it. NFL teams don't mind swapping these offensive linemen around at
Nope.
all. They don't even
Nope.
blink, man. You
Nope.
talk about right to left, guard to center, tackle to
Hmm.
guard, man, they don't even hesitate. Sometimes even during a game, they don't hesitate. And I'm not quite as far on that spectrum as you and Shane are, but you and Shane have talked about how big of a deal it is, and I'm more there with you than these NFL teams are. These NFL teams just don't seem to care at all.
It's so tough from this point of view because I do think 80% of it is mental. And it's just you
Okay.
gotta know from the interviews with the coaches that these scouts have. You gotta know from, did this guy ever play a different position? You've got, because I mean, the Browns, Dawan Jones. They took Dawan Jones in the fourth round a couple years ago. He was a right tackle only at Ohio State, but he plays left tackle for them as a rookie and was fine. Now, part of that was they had Callahan at that point, right? But like some about him was probably they asked him one day and he was like, "Yeah, I don't see a difference." And they were like, "Okay, cool, great." But then for the guys that it matters, it really matters. The good thing with Fano, as opposed to like Maui Noah, for example, Fano was the left tackle for Utah as a freshman. So like he had real legitimate experience there. And then when they brought in Lomu, he switched over to the right side because I assume maybe Lomu was the guy that was like, I don't know about switching over, but fun. And there's also a required amount of athleticism. Like if you're just a natural mover and a really good athlete, I bake that in as you can probably switch a little more than somebody else. Fano's one of those guys. Um, Maui Noah there for the Giants at 10. How'd you feel about them taking? I mean, this was a chalk one for me. This was kind of like you trade Dexter Lawrence, you get the 10th overall pick. That way you can do whatever fun thing you want at 5, whether it's Love, whether it's Reese, whether it's Downs, whether it's Styles. Um, and then at 10, you take an offensive lineman and you set yourself up for the future a little bit.
I liked it. Now, a lot of the chatter surrounding the Giants over the past few weeks wasn't necessarily them going all big guys. It was like,
Hmm.
hey, they may take Love or hey, they
Hmm.
may take defensive back. But,
Hmm.
this is really closer to the type of stuff you and I expected for the Giants was
Yep.
no, Harbaugh's going to stick more meat potatoes type guys and more meat and potatoes type way. Like even Reese, who you could argue about being meat and potatoes. They're not dropping him into edge. It doesn't look like they're sticking him at linebacker,
Right.
And then Malinois here's I liked it. They needed the help on the offensive line, I felt, so I really liked it myself.
Yeah. Right guard or right tackle. We'll see what they do with him, but he'll be on the right side with Illuminor. They'll figure out where they want to put those guys.
Yeah.
Another trade here. The Dolphins trade back one spot from 11 to 12. The Cowboys send two fifth round picks, 177 and 180, to get Caleb Downs, which I assume this was John Eric Sullivan called Jerry Jones. which is like what a moment, by the way, right? Like first
Right.
time GM, you've been in the number two and below chair for 25 years, and you're like, I'm about to call Jerry effing Jones and tell him what's up. Hey man, I'm taking Caleb Downs.
Do you want him?
Give me something for him.
That's exactly what happened. That is totally what
How?
happened.
I mean, I'm not gonna get too graphic on here, man, but how good do you think that felt? Your
Really
whole
good. Yes.
life, your whole life gets you to this moment to be a GM and you're sitting in your first draft room and you're like, I'm gonna call Jerry Jones and I'm gonna put him over a barrel.
Uh-huh. What's up, Jerry?
Oh man. And you only get two fifth round picks. Jerry was probably like, sure, sure, young man, right? Like he's tossing a quarter to the paper boy. This is
Yes.
what Jerry Jones just did.
I'll get you
Merry,
later. Yes. Yeah.
Merry Christmas, kid. You know, way to go. Good for you. Um, but I don't care, man. If I'm John Eric Sullivan, I'm doing circles. Now we'll talk about his pick later. But the Cowboys go get Caleb Downs. Downs was here, Bain was here. The Cowboys probably had to feel like they were in a great spot. Honestly, I thought they were just gonna stick at 12 and take whichever one of them Miami didn't take at 11. And I thought that would have
Yeah.
been just fine.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Cowboys getting Downs here?
And to me, there were two players that I thought were just absolutely total perfect fits for the Cowboys, and one of them was sitting there in Caleb Downs. The other one would
Hmm.
have been Sonny Styles.
Hmm.
Either of those two players, I just thought were like perfect intersections of talent and need, and not high risk either. I thought either
Yeah.
of those guys would have been fantastic. It turns out Caleb Downs was sitting there for them to trade up the one spot. So yeah, I absolutely love it.
And let's go ahead and pair this with because I mentioned they could have taken Bain. They're at 23 because they trade down. So they make this trade down with the Eagles, which we'll talk about the Eagle side and the lemon stuff later because that's also interesting. They pick
Yep.
up 114 and 137 to move from 20 to 23 and this is cool because they essentially those two picks, those two fifths they traded to the Dolphins, they made back and more by trading back later. So they essentially traded up from the fifth round in two picks to the fourth round in two picks to go back one spot or up one spot in the top 10 and down three spots in the 20s. But with that pick at 23, they take Malachi Lawrence. Now, they needed an edge rusher. We knew they needed an edge rusher. We knew the second pick would be a good spot for whether it was Falk or Mesidor. It's funny because Mesidor goes one pick ahead to the Chargers. So
Yeah.
you're wondering, were they hoping Mesidor was going to be there? But either way, they get Malachi Lawrence, who I think in terms of this like tier two to tier 2.5 edge rushers, um, is the best like pass rusher, getting after the quarterback. Big, fast, good pass rush moves already. Can stand, can put his hand in the dirt. So they pair Downs with Malachi Lawrence. How do you and move up later in the draft? How do you feel about everything Dallas did tonight?
The trades were fantastic. The I rather would have had Keldrick Falk myself than Lawrence, but
Hmm.
I'm totally fine. Lawrence is a great fit for the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are glad to have him. That's all of that. You and I even talked about last night. Was Lawrence truly on the bubble as a first round guy? And we ultimately decided yes. You know that there was enough
Yeah.
substance there that somebody would whether he got picked or not, somebody would legit be thinking about him. And it turns out the Cowboys wanted him bad enough to grab him here at 23. So I I have no problem with it. I think it fits a need. I think the talent base is there. And so I think this is going to help out the Cowboys. And I especially like it when you pair it with Downs, who, you're adding in a guy who can kind of control the upper middle box, if you will. And
Hmm.
then you're adding a guy who can pressure the quarterback. So I like that combo that they were able to put in here.
And even though they're both defense big needs, and Lawrence is the guy that plays up front more on the line of scrimmage, Downs is the one that's more like he's the meat and potatoes as a really good run defender, can come down and
Yeah.
hit, be the communicator in the middle. And then Lawrence is like, hey man, you pin your ears back and you go, big guy. You
Hmm.
just have a ball. And Falk is interesting, and I think Falk's versatility like you could play him on the inside or the outside is I think really really good. But they have those two defensive tackles that they're committed to and they like and are going to be linchpins. So now it's like just get a speed guy off the edge and let her rip. So now their edge room is Ezeraku, Gary, and
Hmm.
Lawrence.
Yeah. It's a good edge room.
Jerry
Yep.
might have won that trade,
Yeah. See, it's tough. The one thing,
and I mean the
because
Parsons trade to be clear.
right. Whether we talk about trade wins or not, the
Ben doesn't care.
one thing that a lot of media people tend to leave out of moving a big player from one team to another is that you now then have a vacuum of of resources to
Hmm.
remake the roster some other way, and it won't be the same, and it might not even be as good in that department, but still it will be remade. We've seen so many of the good franchises do that over the years, where they do say goodbye to a good player, and yet they still keep winning because they have figured out how to remake that roster somehow. And Dallas is working on that.
Hashtag Jerry was right. Um, 12, Dolphins trade back, excuse me, Dolphins trade up. They send the two fifth round picks so they can get, and they end up, oh my gosh, I'm all over the place, my man. They do the trade back, the Dolphins. They take the two fifth round picks and they select Caden Proctor out of Alabama. We've had mixed feelings on Proctor for sure. I didn't expect him to go above some of the offensive linemen he went ahead of, but he kind of went in the tier of offensive linemen, just a little earlier than I really would have expected, a lot earlier than I would have expected. How'd you feel about the Dolphins taking Proctor?
I, I wasn't thrilled that it was Proctor specifically,
Hmm.
but I was proud that this regime went with offensive line, and there's no denying that Proctor's got the most talent and the biggest upside out of all the O linemen in this draft. It's just, can somebody scheme it, corral it? So I was thrilled with all of that part of it, and we'll see if Miami is the one that can get the most out of Proctor.
He like Ian Achor, like Lomu. I think Blake Mo's going to play his spot. Awane, we'll see what where they end up putting him. Rutledge, we'll see where he gets put. To your point on Fano earlier, yeah, these teams are just like, we'll take the offensive lineman and we'll sort out where they go later. And that's where I was for, I'd say, we just mentioned last night, we've been doing this now for 5 years. That's where I
Yeah.
was for the first 4 years of doing this. Like, just take the guys, get in there, mix them all up and see what shakes out. I don't know. It's probably just my stupid Steelers bias and putting Kevin Dotson on the wrong side for 4 years and Broderick Jones on the wrong side for 2 years that I'm like, oh, maybe we should listen to these guys when they want to play someone. But again, if Proctor was like, hey man, I played right tackle every day in practice for, a series or two, and I did that for 3 years or whatever. Um, or if they're like, hey man, we have Patrick Paul, Savainae, Brewer, Sawyer, whatever, and then Austin Jackson. We have a starting five. We're gonna try you out on the right side on line two in training camp and through OTAs, and we'll see how you adjust. And if you beat out one of those guys, great. And if it takes time to redshirt, then we'll get you up to speed in 2027. We're the Dolphins. We're clearly not playing for 2026. So, um, I hope he plays guard. I hope they're going to be just because I think his skill set is best at guard. So whether it's left or right, I don't really care how they end up trying to do that if it works for him either way. But we'll see because I think you'd be like a legit all pro guard for sure. All right, we're at the funky one. Rams 13. Take Ty Simpson. It happens. Makai Lemon's on the board. Ruben Bain's on the board. Kenyon Sadiq's on the board. Um, and Ty Simpson goes 13 to the Rams. This was a connection made a long time ago. And then obviously early in the season, it seemed really viable. Like, oh, they've got that Falcons pick, they're gonna have their pick. Like this guy's rolling. Everything happens with Simpson as the year goes, and then the Rams get so close to the Super Bowl, and you're like, there's no way they take the quarterback here, right? There's no way. And they don't even trade back. Snead doesn't even like move around. He's just like, yeah, we'll just take Simpson right here at 13. No big deal. We'll see you guys tomorrow. And Simpson will see you in 2 years when you start. How'd you feel about this? This was the one, the first pick I think that made me go like, oh my gosh, like this I was surprised.
Blew me away. I just about fell on the floor when I saw it. And, people told me, specifically Tom McShay, who we both watched and listened to, told us it was going to happen, or that was a very good chance it was going to happen. I was like, no, that's not going to happen, man. Like, I'm not even sure they'd trade back into the first round to make it happen. There's no way they're picking at 13, quarterback here. There's just no way. So it blew me away. Made me laugh. I was like, okay, I have a lot of thoughts about this. Some good, some not. I will say, because everybody knows who's been listening to us, I'm not a huge Simpson guy,
Hmm.
but if it's going to work anywhere, this is like one
Hmm.
of the two places it would absolutely have its maximum chance with McVay. And another thought I had was, you know what? rumors continue to persist that maybe McVay isn't in this for the long haul, right? Like he just
Mm-hmm.
wants to go take off. If this was the ticket, if McVay's like, yeah, give me that guy, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
ticket to keep
Yep.
McVay around for the next 5 years, then heck yeah, absolutely. You
Yeah.
know, major move there. So that could also be, and then I go back to something I've been preaching to franchises for probably 10, 12 years now. It's okay to get your future quarterback lined up or get a
Mm-hmm.
young quarterback sitting there who's got some value, whether he plays or not. Now, though, it didn't work for the Patriots because Brady was a butthole about it, right? But Stafford's not going to be. Stafford's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sure, bring him on. I'll teach him.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work for Packers quarterbacks necessarily because they were buttholes about it. But Stafford and McVay, they'll make this work. And
Yeah.
so, ultimately, well, I don't think I would have done it, man. There's so much good energy here. This franchise is so good at what they do. I don't have any problem with it at the end of the day.
Had had this been their pick at 29 and had Simpson's season finished out the way the first half of it finished out,
Okay.
wouldn't blink an eye at this, right?
Okay.
But this is obviously a different situation that we're talking about. But I think we just need to wait until this is the first time I think of this draft where I'm like, we really have to do sit and wait and see what else they do. Because if we get to 61 and they pick up a receiver we really like, if they get to 90 whatever and they take a an edge rusher we actually like, there's a sneaky guy that actually fell to them that we think can be helpful, or a
Yeah.
defense tackle that can stop the run or something. But and I get you're supposed to use the draft as like building blocks, right? Like the free agency is where you get your like short term, we need to fill this hole. They obviously did that with the defensive backs. The draft is like these are our foundational building blocks. We're only picking at 13 because we traded for this pick. So we're only in range for a quarterback. Now, maybe they actually would have been in range later by trading back up or keeping 29 or doing something else or trading back, but
Yeah. Maybe.
whatever. To them, they're like, this is a quarterback we can build. And what you said about keeping McVay is what I was texting our
Yeah.
guy Ronan about. Ronan, who's on this channel lots and then super is a Rams fan. And I was like, this puts that stuff to bed, right? Because Les Snead, the GM,
Right.
does not take this pick to draft a quarterback if he doesn't think his superstar offensive minded genius head coach is going to be there when this guy actually
Right.
plays, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, like it is what it is. It's not as exciting for the fans. Like Makai Lemon would have been sick. Even Ruben Bain would have been sick. But we're here, and I think Simpson's tape is pretty good when he's healthy. So we'll see, we'll see. Underwhelming, kind of like I said, if had the Steelers like on him, I would just be like, oh, okay, all right. But the surprise factor was there. Ravens, not the biggest surprise factor. Venga Ione, sorry, come from Penn State. This was another one that hurt me, Ben. Does go to the Ravens after all. Was the most widely mocked pick ever since Linderbaum left in free agency. Um, Texted my Ravens buddy about it, and I just kept telling him I can't wait till one of these true left guards that they're pushing over to right guard for no reason is terrible in 2026. But I'm the only one that's thinking about that. What do you think about Iwane going to the Ravens?
Yeah. I love Ilwane to the Ravens. I was kind of hoping it wouldn't happen. I really hoped, and even sitting here now, I wish the Dolphins had grabbed Ilwane instead of
Yeah.
Proctor. I'm not trying to knock the Proctor thing because that's
Hmm.
totally fine. He may still be beautiful, but I wish the Dolphins had kind of been ahead of that right there because it always, man, it just always feels like some of these franchises make the right or get the right move, and the other ones kind of keep striking, right? So it feels like the Dolphins made a higher risk move while the
Yeah.
Ravens sat there and got the pick that everybody predicted was perfect for them. You know?
Yeah.
So,
It's gonna be classic when Proctor like is released and going into his third season, and Ioane like
right,
has an all pro, and then we're gonna get a screenshot of this range of the draft, and
right.
Dolphins fans are gonna be like, "Oh, could have had Ioane," especially if both guys are gonna be switching sides anyways. Like, shoot, should have just taken him.
I know that stuff
Um,
seems to keep happening, but again, I'm not
yeah,
trying to rip the Dolphins because I'm glad they went offensive line, and you know the Ravens. If they hadn't got Iwane, they might have grabbed Peter Woods or another guy they liked, right? But
yeah.
or they could have got Makai Lemon, But
The guy I thought the Ravens were gonna get as he was falling ends up going one pick later to the Bucks, and talk about a perfect. Perfect pick. Ruben Bain to Todd Bowles and the Buccaneers. That's so cool, man. I think is the pick that has the like I mean, let me look through this and make sure I'm really gonna say. I think this has the like highest chance of actually being the like, oh my God, this was the best pick of the first round because this guy immediately was really good on the defensive line and like changed the Bucks' outlook for the next 2 years, kind of thing. Like, does he save that? Like, could save this era of the Bucks a little bit? Could have a year where Baker gets
Yeah.
extended, Bowles keeps the job, and they continue to try to build the offense back up in a like smoother and nicer transition to the future than what I was predicting was going to happen. I think this is a home freaking run getting Bane at 15.
I feel like the Buccaneers lucked out a little bit here.
Hmm.
Bain was sliding. It wasn't a huge shock. He did slide a little farther than I thought, but I thought this was perfect. Like you said, Bain to the Buccaneers. I think Bain's excited. I'm sure the Buccaneers are. And it brings back shades of really now, man, 25 years of the Buccaneers collecting front seven guys from either Miami or Florida State who have volatile actions on the field and energy and strength and just motor, but the talent too. And Bane's got that. So I think culture, it's a great fit. It brings up shades of previous things, and they were lucky to get him, and there it was. Because I was even mocking Falk to them, which I would have been fine with, but Bane, I feel like, is the more sure thing. While Falk
Yeah.
might have just as high a ceiling, Bane felt like the more sure thing, and he's got that violence there that he plays with. So yeah, I agree with you. Perfect fit.
What round pick was Levante David?
Man, I sorry, I'd have to Google that one. So
Hang on. I got it. Second rounder. Second rounder.
okay.
How, yeah, it just feels fitting too. Like when he was standing there, when Bane was standing there, sunglasses on as they were announcing his name, and he was still back in the green room. I was just like, how poetic is this that like David's on his way out and here comes Ruben. Like I think this is scary. I think this is legit, man. All right, Jets. We knew at 16 after they got an edge rusher, it was going to either be a pass catcher or it was going to be a corner. Um, did we skip Jordan Tice? Wow, I skipped several picks here. That's hilarious. Um, let's go
Because of the
back.
trades, man. Yeah, it's because
Yeah,
of the trades.
I jumped. Who did I jump to? I just got excited about the Cowboys. I don't even think I had a real good reason for it. All right, sorry, Jets. You've already had your turn. Let's hit the Commanders real quick. Commanders, Sonny Styles, home run, seventh overall. Great spot for him. It seemed like all indications were this was his floor. Um, a lot of questions in Washington, absolutely, but I think with Tate and Love already gone, with Reese and Bailey already gone, this was, I think, the perfect pick.
So, all things considered, I'm glad they did this because I love Styles. I think the Commanders are a little bit lucky to have him. The only caveat is they did have bigger needs elsewhere. I still think edge was a bigger need and defensive back was a bigger need, but man, this totally now locks down the linebacker room for them for the next
Mm,
couple of seasons. That's all beautifully set. And it's not like they didn't bring in help at edge. They did. And it's not
right.
like they don't have anybody at defensive back. They do. So, boy, you
Hmm.
talk about strength there and building blocks. And Sonny Styles is just a beautiful player, man. I just absolutely love him. So I think they're lucky to have him. And I'm really thrilled that they went defense here. I was really
Yes.
hoping they wouldn't land offense here. So I was very glad all the way around.
Yeah, Tater Love would have been like, okay, defense went with the first six picks kind of thing, right? Like
Right,
it
right.
was Styles, Downs, Reese, Bailey, and then Mendoza and like, Mansour Delane, like win the top six. And it was like, well, we
Hmm.
have to take one of these offensive guys. Styles is great. The Saints, Jordan Tyson at 8 overall. I said last night, Ben, when we were doing the over-unders, we think wide receivers are gonna fall, and listen, Makai Lemon did, but we ended up getting five. Um,
Yeah, we got five.
we can't overlook a scenario where, I mean, I said all three guys go in the top 10. That didn't quite happen. But with Tate going at 4, that opened up for the Giants could use a receiver, the Commanders could use a receiver, the Saints could use a receiver, and then the Chiefs could use a receiver. There was a world where this happened, and if teams were confident
Hmm.
enough in the medicals, Tyson is a good enough player to take a swing on. So how did you feel about him going 8 to the Saints?
Yeah, I loved it. I really thought they had a need there at wide receiver because you'd love to have two good pass catchers to really help out your young quarterback. I absolutely totally loved it. Now, the Tyson thing, man, Tyson was all the rage back during the season. Goodness gracious,
Mm-hmm.
people just couldn't say enough good things about him. During the offseason, it had gone like Neil quiet for a first rounder on Tyson,
Yep.
except for rumors about toughness that I'm still not quite sure where that originated from. It
Yeah.
could just be
That was somebody wanting him
draft.
to fall.
I think that's what that is, right?
Yeah.
Because it didn't make any
Uh-huh.
sense. The injury thing I could see, that was legit. But the
Yes.
toughness thing just never made sense to me. I think that was people wanting him to fall, but no, here he goes. And he could have gone anywhere, I think 8 to 15 wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, I love it going to the Saints. Absolutely love it.
Okay. Sorry to Saints and Commanders fans who felt slighted. Hopefully you took that as a sign of respect that we like those picks. Um Kenyon Sadiq. So I got there because of pass catcher. We thought pass catcher could be a huge thing. We thought corner could be a thing. We thought both positions could fall. So we weren't sure who what 16 was gonna be. But they take Kenyon Sadiq, which for the upside, man, and for like we have a veteran quarterback in Geno Smith. We have an offensive line. We have a running back who's making a little bit of money on the franchise tag. Let's go get some weapons for us to sling the ball around to, and then to pair this with trading up for Omar Cooper Jr.
Yeah.
They've got some. Now listen, everybody was like their quarterback in 2027 setup, and I'm over here like, buddy, Geno Smith in 2026 is ready to go. Like let's lock in. You know what I'm saying? Even though Frank Reich is going to ruin the whole thing, but if we ignore that, Geno, comeback player of the year 2026. I'm starting the campaign now, baby. Let's get after it. How do you feel?
Let me take both picks, the Cooper and the Sadiq together. So first of all, I was a little surprised they grabbed Sadiq, but I was glad because just getting in the pass catcher realm, adding to the to what is it? It's Garrett Wilson there, right? I get the two
Hmm.
Ohio State guys moved. It's Garrett Wilson there. So now you have two guys. Then you added Cooper, which is a third. And again, I'm not a Cooper guy for a whole litany of reasons that I'm not going to get into here tonight. But still, man, I love that they took a direction, right? And that direction is really obvious that hey, we're setting up for 27, and we're pretty hell bent on getting a quarterback in the 27 draft and having an offensive line that looks fairly well set. You
Hmm.
can always keep working on it, but then we've added in two pass catchers to go along with Garrett Wilson. Man, it looks like we are set to go for something in 27. So I really liked it that they took these directions, even though I might have picked a different receiver. But yeah, man, listen, Cooper is tough as nails. He's as tough as any linebacker or safety out there. He is tough as nails. And his blocking is so good that you can weaponize it. You can turn that into part
Hmm.
of the blocking scheme. It's that
Yes.
good. And then he runs the good routes. So now you combine that with the Wilson and the incredibly athletic Sadiq. So now you in theory have three guys. I will go back to the same thing I always say with these franchises, man. You can make picks we love, but the coaching staff and the quarterback have got to step it up. So until
Yeah.
they do, I'm not sure the rest of it matters, but I do love the direction for sure.
And listen, I think Makai Lemon is a good blocker, especially when you consider his size. But to go with Sadiq here at 16 and then take Cooper, who does a lot of what Lemon does, maybe just at like 80, 85%. Um, You're also putting guys in your offense that can be good run blockers as pass catchers and really open things up in the run game. Because Sadiq, for not being a true wide tight end, is a pretty good blocker. So you've got guys that are gonna block, want to be physical, and you're just putting options everywhere. So I actually really like this. Wasn't one I was really thinking about for them. Um, but
Yeah.
but I actually do like that there. Lines Blake Miller. It's not Monroe Freeling on the left side, but Dan Campbell told us he wanted to move Sewell to the left side. So now they're just like, well,
Yeah.
now we'll just take a right tackle. So
Right.
if that's the math you're doing, because to me, I was like, we'll take Freeling and don't move Sewell. If he already decided, hey, maybe it's also like a leadership thing, right? Like Decker's out, Sewell, you're the left tackle now, right? This is your line, right? If it's a little bit like that, a little bit of old school, okay, now we need a right tackle. We take Blake Miller. I'm cool with that. That I feel like that's a great fit. So not a bad pick there.
Yeah. And listen, I'm lower on Miller, but I do respect Miller a lot. I really do for a whole bunch of reasons. And while I would have preferred Freeling, I was happy with this as well. And I will say, I'm especially happy with it if they continue to run the football a lot. If they're going to
Oh
be
yeah.
dropping back seven deep, and 7 step drops and
Hmm.
passing a lot, I'm not as thrilled with it. But if they continue to run the football effectively, mix it up, then yeah, this is a great pick.
Yeah, that's got to be what they're doing. Um, The Minnesota Vikings take Caleb Banks at 18. Ben, Ben, Ben. How do we feel? How do we feel? I don't feel good,
Dang it.
Ben.
Dang it.
I
Okay,
don't.
first of all, I love
Mm.
Caleb Banks as a player. And
Yes.
I know about high pad level, and I've heard, matter of fact, there were three people on this network who picked up on the fact that and I didn't, but who picked up on the fact that maybe he's not always full bore energy, high motor on every play. But I love Caleb Banks. But the medicals, I I want to be careful. I say this. I almost didn't care if he passed a physical today. I've
Hmm.
just seen so much. I really wasn't wanting to pull the trigger on him in the first round. And I know the agent came out yesterday or the day before and said, no, he's good to go.
Hmm.
I don't even care what the agent has to say. The agent has every reason to say that. So I hope the Vikings have thoroughly investigated this, but that also their long-term projections here are right. Because even if he looks good today, like if they looked at him and said he's good to go, man, the long-term projections on that when you've got safety sitting over here that everybody's thinking you should take, man, that one threw me. And if you had said that Jermod McCoy, who I don't think his long-term injury prognosis looks as bad as Banks's
Hmm.
would get shoved off into the second round while Banks gets picked at 18, I would have been absolutely floored, and I was. I don't hate it, but I wouldn't have done it, man. I just would not have done it.
Yeah, I'm so nervous. And this was the team that like did not need to take this kind of swing. This team that doesn't
Right?
have a lot of picks traditionally over the years. Just traded their analytically driven or traded, just fired their analytically driven general manager and just
Yeah.
picked the old school scout, which is funny because like the old school scout I feel like would be like, like injury prone, not tough, takes
High
plays
pad
off,
level.
not
Yeah.
taking them, yeah.
Mm-mm.
But they were like big, fast. Doctor said he could
Did
take
Flores want this? I mean,
maybe,
seriously.
may maybe, but
Wouldn't
like
Flores have wanted the defensive back? I mean,
I can't pretend to know what goes on in Flores's evil maniacal brain, to be honest with you. But I would think of all the things that he does, the position on the defense that I'd be least concerned about is the defensive tackle. So
yeah.
if this is just purely a our defense is really good and we're just taking a swing on a guy that might be elite, cool. But man, I don't know, man. Like, didn't they just try this in a sense with Dallas Turner a couple years ago and like that guy can't get on the field? Like they might trade Gernard, their best edge rusher, just to get Turner on the field.
Hmm.
Um, And this isn't even
Dang.
like I know Vikings fans are upset that it's not Thieneman and that he went to Chicago.
Right. And
But
he
this
went
isn't
to,
even a
I
Thieneman
just now
thing.
noticed that he actually went, like I knew he went to Chicago, but that Minnesota had to watch him go to Chicago.
That's real tough. That's a real bummer. And I checked with Josh. We have a lot of Vikings people on the network, but Josh was the one I could get a hold of.
Yeah, we
Although
do.
go on YouTube Shorts because Austin probably has his as a Vikings fan as well. Um and he was like, "Yeah, we're in shambles. We're in shambles. Like we already anointed this as our guy and now he's at Chicago." Um
Because didn't it seem like the perfect intersection of, hey, the Vikings need a defensive back because they've
yep.
needed it for two off seasons, defensive back help somewhere in the room. We've
Mhm.
got two beautiful safeties sitting there, both of whom are aggressive. One's an athletic, kind of a freakish guy, but the other guy is like this free safety magician roamer. And either one would totally fit what Flores could or would do. And they didn't take either one of those. They went with a defensive tackle whose meds are concerning, but the agent said it was okay.
The agent said it was okay. Um, the only thing I can think of for the Vikings is they can get a safety at 49. They can probably get a safety at 82.
I think so. Yeah.
And they
I think they can
needed
get
a
up in both
defensive
spots.
tackle. So, and we've talked about this defensive tackle group, like 82, I would say like a very slim chance of getting a defensive tackle there. 49, maybe getting one that's on that right. Remember, this was the team though that I said none of their picks really lined up value wise with like where the strengths were of this draft.
Yeah.
Like 18 always like kind of felt like safety just by default, but like defensive tackle didn't feel great anywhere, like corner didn't feel great anywhere, center doesn't feel great anywhere. So I think they were always in an awkward spot. But even if they were just gonna even if you were gonna say defensive tackle with some questions, I just would have taken Peter Woods and moved on.
I
Like
think I would have too. Yes.
this guy was number one on the board in September and still went in the first round, albeit late. But like, I'd rather those questions be like he didn't exactly get to play his best position and then changed his weight while he was in college instead of like this guy's foot might break every 3 months. So
See, that's a big thing, and I hate to be all cliche about big men and foot troubles, but it really has been consistent. We see it more in basketball, right? But
yeah,
still, we see it. And listen, I
he
hate to be
broke it in
cliche about
September
these
and then he
things,
broke it again in
and
February.
he broke
Like
it
it,
again.
or yeah, or
Well, it
March
was
or whatever
already
the combine
injured
was.
last year. I forget what the injury was, but still, that's three injuries in basically like a year and a half, right?
Yeah,
So, that's a
yeah,
lot, man. I That's a really huge swing, and for what? Like even if he pays off, let's say he
right.
pays off and he's all pro, man, you still may have the injury problem, right? So
Yeah,
I just would not have done it myself.
yeah. Panthers though, Unreal Freeling. That's pretty cool. So we were wondering. I'm just gonna say
Okay.
every offensive line pick is pretty cool. We were wondering what was gonna happen. Ike Ekwonu, the
Yeah.
patellar tendon injury in the knee. Like some guys don't
Yeah.
come back. Oh no, you're putting the glasses on. Some guys never make it back. Even when they do, they're not usually who they were. So like, okay, questions there. Okay, Rasheed Walker, $4 million flyer to like stopgap for a year, and they're like, yeah, we'll
Yeah.
just get out ahead of this. And if one of those two guys works out, great. Taylor Moton, he's getting older. Monroe Freeling, another one of these offensive linemen that I think is just like might just take a redshirt year in 2026 and then get stronger, get better than 2027, see where the landscape is, and then he's ready to go.
I really did not expect them to go offensive line. I really didn't want them to. I really wanted defense here, but they've got so much money invested in that offensive line. And, at a certain point, whether it's, hey, we don't want to pay Iquanu once his contract comes up, or hey,
Yeah.
the other guys are just getting old and cycling out, I have no problem that they took Freeling. And Freeling looks like that he will be a really solid guy for years to come. And that will save them on money for the next 3 or 4 years. So I'm totally fine with that. And they still have the rest of the draft to try to work on defense too. So it's not a disaster at all. I'm totally fine with the pick, even though I really was hoping for defense here. But yeah, this is fine.
But when they go and get Jalen Phillips and Devin Lloyd in free agency, then it says we don't have to do defense, right? So if Ruben Bain or how a lot of these defensive guys did fall, but like I know for me personally, like I didn't even love any of these guys. I know you would have gone Falk here. Um, Man, you might end up winning this whole draft season, Ben, because Falk goes 31 to Robert Saleh and might just become like the next Eric Armstead or something like that. I like that comp now. But anyways, all right. But the Panthers like didn't have to do any one thing, so they're like, hey, there's some questions on the line. This guy has immense upside. Let's just get out ahead of it. Um, all right, Cowboys. Here's where the Cowboys traded down from 20 to 23 to the Eagles for 23, 114, 137. As we mentioned, they take wide receiver Mekhi Lemon. It's now like all but official that AJ Brown is not going to be on the Eagles in 2026. That trade's going to happen after June 1st when his contract is easy to move. Probably going to be the Patriots. We're not going to get into all that right now. But Mekhi Lemon coming in to be probably wide receiver two then for the Eagles. Devonta Smith kind of becomes the number one. The funny thing about this is the Steelers were on the phone with Mekhi Lemon when the Cowboys still had this pick because they were like, hey, we're taking you. The Cowboys are going to take a defensive player. You're going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Really?
Meanwhile, the Eagles are trying to call Mekhi Lemon and say, hey, we just traded for this pick and we're going to take you. So
Wow.
the almost Steeler Mekhi Lemon is now a Philadelphia Eagle. Ben, how do you feel about the Eagles trading up for this pick and taking Mekhi?
It surprised me, but I like it. I kind of sort of figured they'd go back for another big receiver at some point in this draft, whether it
Hmm.
was whether they were picking like a Denzel Boston or whether they'd drop even, second round, maybe pick up, another one of the bigger receivers. I kind of figured they would do that. So it did surprise me that they were willing, if AJ Brown's out, they put in Lemon. But I like it. Lemon will be very effective for them, I think for several years. So I'm totally fine with it. I will say, two things. Number one, this is the way a draft should have worked for decades and didn't, is that you have these franchises willing to freely trade, just as if we were in an open market in an ancient city during the day, right? Just the merchants just going back and forth, right? It should be a free moving market. And it wasn't for decades, man, for
Mm,
decades. Just kind of this old thinking. This is the way it should work. And it should be a free market where people are these guys are able to get after it and get their guy. And another new bit of thinking here, you know, even as recently as 3 or 4 years ago, the thinking was, oh, the smart teams trade back. That's the intelligentsia, right? That's the smart move.
hmm
Well,
hmm
man, we saw the Chiefs trade up tonight. We saw the Eagles trade up tonight. We saw the Patriots trade up tonight. We saw several good
The
franchises
Cowboys,
willing, the
who are
Cowboys
good in the draft every year.
willing to go up and get their guy. And I've said it for years. There's no reason not to. If your guy is sitting there, who cares what anybody else thinks, man? If the room is united on it, and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg and another leg, right? Go up and get your guy, and I think that's the way the market should work. So these people went to it, and the Eagles getting Lemon did surprise me, but I think he'll be very good for them.
Howie just knows the deal when he sees one, man. And he's like, oh, this like consensus top 12 player is falling down into the 20s. Oh, well, let me just go get that guy. That sounds like a good idea. I'm trading AJ Brown anyways. Um, I haven't actually seen what the reaction to this is, but if anyone dislikes it, like as of an hour, no, not an hour ago, it's tw after midnight. What time of the draft? As of 5 hours ago, we were like, Makai Lemon at 13 to the Rams is gonna like solidify their Super Bowl chances. When I was going to the Eagles, who literally won the Super Bowl like 14 months ago, I can't do math tonight. 12, 4, yeah, 14 months ago. So like that seems that seems pretty good, you know. I've as soon as I saw on the ticker like them jump the Steelers, it's like okay, great. Well, as Monroe Freeling falls and Makai Lemon falls, this is they're gonna take one of those guys, and they did, and Freeling's gone too.
And I will say even further, because without me saying this, Lemon's just a legitimately good receiver. But one of the things that came up during our fall study of the wide receivers was how much of a quarterback friendly receiver Lemon is because he not only
Yes.
can track through the zones, he's good at settling into the holes. So now you have Jalen Hurts, who doesn't have a huge arm. He's not consistently going to challenge defensive backs downfield, but you've got a guy here in Lemon who can just rip zones to shreds, whether it's settling in the holes or on the move. And so he'll be a very good friend to Jalen Hurts here.
All right. Speaking of the Steelers, Max Iheanacho is the pick at 21. Not the offensive lineman I thought was going to happen. I really thought this was going to be Lomu as it kind of worked out. Um, but another player that I think on the offensive line could just afford to redshirt a year, and they figure out what position is going to work best for him. But it won't surprise me if Troy Fautanu switches to left tackle. Um,
Okay.
Broderick Jones with the neck setback and it just never really worked out. I don't even think he was going to get his fifth year option picked up. Dylan Cook, UDFA, kind of slated to hold that position until Jones was going to be healthy. Um, Fautanu was a college left tackle. So I think it would be very easy. And one of those guys that I think just has the required athleticism to move. And I think he'd be very comfortable. Iheanacho's a guy that has only been playing football a few years, has only played on the right side. I think he's played literally right tackle and right guard. I'd have to double check that though, but a majority right tackle. I wouldn't move him anywhere and ask him to start year one. I think that would be a disaster. Because the stuff on tape is promising, but it's still kind of sloppy. Um, so that would just scream disaster. But if they want him to start year one, you move Faletanu over and you put Nacho at right tackle. Or if you want to just take a year and let the seventh round picks and UDFAs and Brock Hoffman's and Broderick Jones, you let all those guys with Anderson and Dylan Cook compete for left side, and you let Nacho just kind of ride the bench for a year and learn a spot, then I'd be okay with that. Interesting pick, interesting player. Didn't see it coming though.
No, I would have preferred Lomu. Let me say about Iheanacho really quick. I do like him. I like that. I like the potential there, and boy, he could really be a home run in 2 or 3 years. But I do see some work involved there. It. I really would have preferred Lomu. It feels like we just introduced more instability into a
hmm
Pittsburgh Steelers franchise that already has a quarterback that may only be there for another season, and has a head coach that no one really thinks he's there for the next 25 years, you know? So I, man, I just wasn't thrilled with it, but hey, they went offensive line. So, I guess that's good. I mean, they could have gone wide receiver too, right? So, you
I'm
know,
trying to double check. I think it's a now that Steelers got a hold have gotten a hold of this. I'm getting a lot more pronunciation people. Ehanachor. Ehanachor. I'm gonna bookmark that and try to
Ihana
E
Chore.
Ehanachor. Um, whatever it is, man. I will call him whatever he wants if he starts pancaking some people. That's for sure. Um, just kidding. I'm gonna call him whatever his name is, no matter what. But anyways, Chargers. Talk about some people that put some people in the dirt. They just take Akeem Mesidor. They just take the meanest guy that's on the board at this point. I think that's what their board is. They're just like, who's the meanest? And they get Akeem Mesidor. We said this the other night with them. Like, okay, they
You
could be one of
did.
these teams that look at a guard.
Yep.
They talent wise could use defensive backs, but also they could just use a third edge rusher that just wants to hit people in the face. And so they take Mesidor here for the Chargers. I think that's a great fit.
Yeah, it's good work. I really felt like the Chargers were in a bit of an odd spot where there weren't any obvious home run picks, but Mesidor's a really good one here. Like you said, mean, physical, uh, pressure on the quarterback, holds up against the run, three down player, fits the culture, fits a need. I mean, I pretty much checks all the boxes, right? So I was happy.
To your point on dysfunction for the Steelers, if they take Ehantor and they're just like you're starting left tackle day one, then I'm gonna convulse. Um, the Browns make their next pick. Kevin Concepcion, you nailed this last night in our mock that we did. So they get their tackle in the top 10. They get their wide receiver in the 20s, just like everyone has been talking about since December.
Yeah.
And they get Concepcion here as the fourth wide receiver down at 24. How'd you feel about that?
So I was proud of the Browns because, a lot of dysfunction associated with them over the years. And again, man, they need the coach and quarterback to step up and make any of this matter. But they get their offensive lineman that I really thought they needed. I think they need another one later in the draft, and they get a wide receiver with that second pick. Again, I won't take too much credit for the Concepcion thing because I've been mock drafting the Browns for about 6 months now, and it's just been I've been running several wide receivers through there.
Hmm.
Concepcion fell there most often just out of rank, but wide receiver seemed to be the great fit there at that second spot. So I like what the Browns did tonight, trading down two, collecting picks, and still getting their two positions. Yeah, I liked it.
Bears take Dylan Thieneman, as we alluded to earlier when we talked about the Vikings. Um, for the team that let all of their starting defensive backs essentially go in free agency to just then take their first round pick and say, yeah, we'll just take the free safety. I don't love that, but also based on who they kept in the building in the defensive backfield, like this was really the one thing they still kind of like quote unquote needed. Um, but I mean, I don't love it, but it's not like I don't know. Does it kill you? Do you feel like they like really missed out on a pass rusher they needed? Or I mean, they didn't take Katie McDonald. We did the mock exercise with McDonald last night, and we locked him into the first round. And then he fell out of our own mock like 5 minutes later. Um, this feels like it would have been a good move for them. TJ Parker was a guy we thought could have been a good move for him. He falls out of the first round. Keldrick Falk was here. What do you think about them just taking like a, hey, we'll just get a free safety, cover things over the top, even though we need some help up front?
You're right about the oddity, but I did love it. It really felt similar to what the Eagles and Ravens often seem to have happened to them is that you got a good franchise that has a lot of
Hmm.
momentum, and then a player kind of falls in your lap that you really didn't really expect to be there, and so you just take him. Cinema was projected by so many people to be getting looks at 14, 15, 18 to the Vikings for sure, Panthers at 19. I mean, you just go all down the list. People were predicting that, and yet there he was falling,
Hmm.
probably because of his size, I'm
Hmm.
guessing. But, for the Bears to be able to pick him up, put him on the back half of that defense, let him roam back there, I feel like the people of Chicago are really gonna like Finneman's energy and his thumping ability, even though you can't put him down in the box. I feel like they're really gonna love that. It feels like shades of the 46 defense where that was 46 was the guy that they just kind of named the defense after, even though
Hmm.
he wasn't
Hmm.
anywhere near the best player on the field. They just named the defense after him because it's kind of a keystone there. It feels little shades of that, like the people of Chicago are going to love him. So I do like it. Are there still needs? Yes, but I didn't feel like those needs could completely be filled where you walked away with a player better than Thieneman. I have Thieneman rated higher than McDonald. I had McDonald rated farther back at like 40, 45. It's just I thought there were specific teams that could use
Hmm.
a run stopper, and Chicago was one of them. So that's where I kept running into.
Yeah, and for let even though they let all those guys go, Kevin Byard played a really important role for them, had a really good season. And if Dinneman is just like a younger version of, hey, just a smart, heady guy that can come up and tackle from free safety, but he's going to keep a lid on things, like that also plays a specific role on their defense. And then they'll have those 2 second round picks where they'll hopefully find some guys closer to the front, help stop the run a little bit. All right, we have another trade here at 26. We'll talk about the Bills and their three trades all at once. So the Bills traded back from 26, and they essentially ended up throughout the night swapping 26 and 91 and picking up 35, 66, and 101.
Mm.
Not even thinking about the players yet, but the Bills traded that second round pick for DJ Moore, essentially trade back 11 spots, I think. That math's probably off 9 spots, whatever it is, from 26 to 35. That's gonna bug me now. 6 plus 3, 9 spots. But picking up a second rounder for their efforts and moving back 10 spots in the third round, really, right? How do you feel about them kind of bridging that gap, getting 3 picks in the first 3 rounds, 35, 66? Well, I guess 101's the fourth round, but still, whatever. You get my point.
It's close.
How do
Yeah,
you feel
number
about
wise, it's close.
their three trade backs, moving from 26 to 35, and then picking up, a couple picks there?
So I love the trades. It's interesting. Their general manager has gone through quite a journey. You know, 4 or 5 years ago, he was just getting a bajillion credit points for being this genius, roster builder, etc. Then I was criticizing him 3 seasons ago for signing all these guys to contracts, their own guys, the very second they were available and getting them locked up. I just didn't like tying up the money that way. Well, then he changes off of that. The roster talent starts to go down, and he has been destroyed and ravaged the past year now for not having a good roster. So it's really been amazing to watch him go through this. He's kind of a money ball kind of a guy in a way,
Hmm.
like some of the baseball general managers are. He, he's a good general manager who will rebuild the roster. The gap between 26 and 93 wouldn't bother me, except the Bills had needs, and I feel like these trades will way more help them fill those needs as they try to make another Super Bowl run next year and remake the team a little bit. So, thumbs up on all these trades here. I didn't think there was a magic guy sitting there at 26 that was going to fix them for next season. So, a really, really good job, I thought, by them.
And TJ Parker is the guy that I kept like into mock to them at
Yeah,
26, and he's still there.
yeah.
And if they even get him at 35, then yeah, home run. Okay, now the team that actually picked here was the Texans. They moved up. They traded a couple picks to get Keelan Rutledge, the guard out of Georgia Tech. And Ben, I said last night, if the Texans are going to make a move for an offensive lineman, it's got to be a tackle because they've done enough just like mass stuff on their guards. And they traded up for the second guard in this class, I guess, even though he was my third ranked guard. Um, how do you feel about Keelan Rutledge to the Texans and fitting him on this offensive line?
Yeah, okay. So first of all, let me just start with Rutledge and Tech and the Texans. I like Rutledge. I like the Texans. I like the Texans getting Rutledge. All of that's fine. He'll bring a fire and an energy and a size to him, and they needed offensive line, so all of that's fine. Picking him in the first round, I'm not a fan of. I'm just not. I really truly feel like there's guards sitting back there in the second round that they're not the same kind of player, but they're good guards. Man, they're sitting back there. Pregnon, Basantis, Dunker, they're good guards sitting back there. I don't know why you had to zip up here to collect this one. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there was still one tackle sitting there that was Lomu, right? Caleb Lomu
Mm-hmm.
was sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I would have preferred Lomu for the Texans. And, whether they traded up or were able to sit, maybe they wouldn't have been able to sit, but, trade up and get Lomu. So, this is a good franchise. They typically know what they're doing, but this one I wasn't thrilled with. I don't hate the player. I don't hate the match. I just would have gone up and got Caleb Lemieux myself.
And like Lamu went at 28, the pick they traded from. They and like
Right.
Were the Bills taking Rutledge at 26? Was some who were you, were the 49ers taking Rutledge at 27? That's why they ended up trading out.
Yeah, maybe.
Why were you ultimately that were Rutledge better be good. So now you've paid Ed Ingram $12 million and I get for a couple seasons and I guess he's going to be on the bench because you paid Braden Smith about $12 million I guess to be the right tackle and you paid Teller about $12 million to I guess start. Um Just got a lot of guards, man. They just did I wrote in my notes, they just did a whole, or maybe I tweeted it. They did a whole lot of something with the offensive line. Like
Yeah,
I said it
I
last
didn't
night,
like
there's
the
a difference
signings
between like,
myself.
yeah, there's a
Yeah,
difference between like cleaning things up and giving yourself options
right.
and then just like throwing a bunch of stuff in there and seeing what shakes loose. And that's what it feels like they're doing, which I guess is better than nothing, but like
Yeah,
the
it's
throwing
better
stuff
than
in there is
nothing.
what they did last year too. So I don't know, man.
Right.
I
I
don't
guess
know.
you keep throwing things at it and you hope that your offensive line coach can make it work.
Hmm.
I didn't like all the signings. That's the part I truly did not like. If they'd have grabbed one signed one of those guys, just say, hey, we strengthened the offensive line, not all of these guys. And
Hmm.
then they went in and drafted a tackle in the first round because there was actually one sitting there. There was
Hmm.
one sitting there. And then you go back in the second round with your second round picks and you get a guard. I would have felt way better about it, but that's not what they did.
Even if they had just taken him at 28, that would have that even would have been like kind of messy, but that's also trade 69 to do that. I don't know. Anyways,
No.
the 49ers trade at a pick 27, and they get picks. They also trade 138 to get picks 30 and 90 from the Dolphins, and the Dolphins come up to take Chris Johnson, corner out of SDSU, our second and last corner taken in the first round. How'd you feel about this for the
Yeah.
Dolphins moving up?
Yeah, I love that they did it. It's not enough to fix their backfield. Who did the Dolphins get in the
Proctor.
early on in the yeah, they got Proctor, yeah. So it's not enough to fix their backfield, but they know that. It's I guess you got to start somewhere. I love Chris Johnson. I Mitch from Todd McShay's show loves Chris Johnson even more than I do, but I've loved Chris Johnson for several months now. Attitude wise, tone wise, he will continue to help that there with the Dolphins. But the talent's there too. Huge need sitting back there for the Dolphins. They'll need to keep adding to that probably over the next 2 to 3 off seasons, really. But so I really love Chris Johnson here to the Dolphins.
If they can come up in the second round and get Emmanuel McNeil Warren, who's still available, or even
That
Colton
would be
Hood, get
great.
another corner, like to
Yes.
to help balance that out a little bit, that would be pretty cool. And they added, they moved down from 90 to 138 in this pick, but they add the two fifth round picks from the Cowboys, so they already had a bunch of picks and they're just adding ammunition. So if they can come up and get another good DB we like, then Chris Johnson's a good starting point for that. How do you feel about the 49ers trading down and effectively they ended up trading out of the first round as well because they did the Omar Cooper trade. So they traded from 27 and 138 and ended up picking up 33, 90, and 179 to do so. How do you feel about the 49ers completely trading out of the first round like the Bills?
Okay, on the funny side, did the 49ers and Rams just not care at all about first rounders? Like
So many
they're
teams would just rather have a day off, you know? They're just like, gosh, I've really been enjoying this vacation. I really can't make it in for Thursday. You said Thursday? So I got to get back in on Wednesday? Like that's I don't know. I don't know why they do this.
it's so weird. Like
They're in the
from a
room.
tech
They're all there. They all showed up to work and they were like, let's just not make a pick tonight. The Rams were like, we stopped our draft prep in October. We don't feel
when we
like doing
saw
anything
Simpson
else.
playing,
Simpson had a great game against Georgia on Halloween or whatever. I don't know. I don't actually know. Cool,
it's
lock it
so
in.
weird. You've
Let's go
got
home.
the Rams and the 49ers, two of the better franchises in football. And from an XO standpoint, man, they are just crisp. Scheme standpoint, they are crisp. The Rams more so from an energy standpoint are beautiful. The 49ers from scheme and XO are probably even better. But boy, they just approach it so differently, and it's almost like how many franchises I've talked about. I like their draft picks tonight, but it doesn't matter until they get the coach and the quarterback up and running and make everything else matter. It's
Yeah.
almost like the reverse is true for the Rams and the 49ers. It's almost like you can hand them not anything, but almost anything, and they're going to make it work. So
Yep.
it's a really odd approach. It's not the way I would do it. It's not the way the Chiefs and the Eagles do it. The Chiefs and the Eagles don't approach their first round picks that way, but the
Nope.
Rams and the 49ers do. So more power to them.
Oh man, imagine. Could you imagine? Could you imagine having a above average quarterback at the very minimum, and then a superstar head coach. That'd be great. All right, the Bills, that second trade back they did was to the Patriots. The Patriots come up and take Caleb Lomu, tackle out of Utah. This is gonna be the third or fourth time I say this tonight, but this guy could take a redshirt year, get stronger, get better.
Yeah,
And I think I tweeted this one where it's he's Elijah Vera Tucker insurance now. He's a Morgan Moses succession plan at right tackle if Moses
yeah,
can make it all through 2026, and I think might even be a free agent. And Lomu is second team right tackle all year long to learn right tackle. And then he's your right tackle of the future. But it's also break in case of emergency if Will Campbell ends up not working out at left tackle, right? So like I
right.
think this is a just we sit, we let this guy relax for 2026 while we deal with everything else we're dealing with, and we'll see where he plays in 2027.
So I love it. I love that they did it. I love that they added talent on the offensive line. I thought offensive line was still a huge need. I didn't think they'd done enough work on it. I didn't think that last off season. I didn't think it through the regular season. I didn't think it during the Super Bowl. They just hadn't done enough work. But again, here's a franchise, Shane's franchise of all people, Elliott Wolf and Company, adding Lomu, who played left tackle, and somebody's going to move. Whether it's this season or next season. Again, somebody's going to move. So here we go again. But anyway, I like that they picked up Lomo for sure.
What percent chance do you give this that like third day of training camp? Who's a beat writer up there in New England? I don't know. Third day of training camp. Somebody tweets out from camp. Will Campbell taking snaps at left guard with Caleb Lomu next to him.
I at least a 25% chance. I think that's
Oh,
real.
that sucks. That's man, what a world. What a world we live in. Okay. God, that's awkward. Anyways, Chiefs, Peter Woods, 29. Um, we have talked about this when they took the lane, but how do you feel about I think this is pretty cool. They needed pass rush. We thought it was going to be one of these edge rushers, but like everybody, like we've been saying, they probably were like Peter Woods was the number one overall pick in September. Let's just take that guy at 29. That's pretty cool. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, okay. So I love that they picked up Peter Woods. I'm still gonna fuss at him. I wish they had added Spencer Fano at
Going back
either
to the first
six or
pick.
nine. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go right back to that, man. And and
Uh,
and if you had done it different, let's hit the offense. If you had added Fano and Boston or Fano and Concepcion in some kind of a world where you're
mhm,
shifting through these things, right? I would like that better. But man, somebody in that room, I don't man, it's not Andy Reid, right? Surely Andy Reid didn't come up with all this stuff, but somewhere between Brett Veach and the defensive coordinator, they had to have said, "Oh man, we need defensive help," and so let's
mhm,
go up and get Mansour Delane. But Peter Wood's just sitting there, and Kansas City has really failed. Man, they have rotated probably 16 different defensive tackles beside
mhm.
Chris Jones over the past few years. And some of them have just been run stoppers. Some
Yep.
of them have been kind of sort of quasi starters. Nobody's been a lock it in, three down guy who can
Mhm.
produce. Peter Woods certainly projects to do that as much as any defensive tackle would. So for however long they keep Chris Jones, which who knows how long that will be, it may just be one more season, right?
Yep.
That's a great pair. I love it. And then whenever Chris Jones goes, Peter Woods is not going to be Chris Jones, but Peter Woods can be a good defensive tackle on his own. So I really like it.
This might just be them thinking about their couple eras that they've had where it was the high flying offense and then it was the top 10 defense. And they're like, which one can we double down on? Right. And we wanted it to be high flying offense. We wanted offensive tackle. We wanted wide receiver. Our first mock we did, I had them trade up for Carnell Tate. Um, I wanted that, right? You just
Yeah.
talked about that. Fans of the NFL and fans of the Chiefs wanted that. This
Hmm.
might be a hey, you know what's more sustainable and better for Mahomes as he gets older? Let's run the ball with Ken Walker. We have most of our line built. We envisioned the line a certain way last year. It got thrown off a little bit with Simmons and his off-field stuff. But if he's back and we're good to go, we think we have an all-pro left tackle, all-pro center, all-pro right guard. Um, and then let's shore up this defensive line with Peter Woods. Let's shore up this defense. Keep the defensive backs cheap. We're not going to overpay for them, but we're going to have the talent
Yeah.
that we need. and let's win with defense, run game, and then Mahomes making some magic when we need him to. That's what it feels like. They the route that they took, which yeah, does not feel like an Andy Reid thing, but something's not going to happen without him signing off on it. So
Nope, it's not.
that's where. So we'll see what they do at 40. Because they don't have 74 now, man. We had all these machinations of things that could happen with that pick 74. So do you want a receiver? Because the only offensive lineman you could really take at 40 would be like if you think Dunker can stick at right tackle, or you can take Caleb Tiernan as a tackle and figure out where you want to put him. But no, it's got to be wide receiver, right? And then you just kind of roll with this offensive line that you got.
I think it's wide receiver. I was jokingly going to say, yeah, not just go draft another cornerback because they're going to be sitting right there. Should be a good cluster while
Jermon
you're at
McCoy
it.
still there, and they're just like, ooh,
Right. Go ahead, do that. Uh, no, seriously. Um, I wouldn't mind Tiernan. When I watch Tiernan, that's since we're moving everybody else anyway. I mean, good grief. Everybody tonight that drafted an offensive lineman is moving somebody, right?
yeah,
Good grief.
yeah.
Tiernan to me looks like a guy who could slide right over the right tackle and play it just as
hmm
crisp and cleanly as anybody. So,
hmm
that wouldn't be a bad way to go. But I do figure wide receiver is what's cooking here, honestly.
Yeah, if they go get Brazel, I'll change my mind completely on everything. I'll be like, money, here we go.
Mahomes is one of the few guys in the NFL who can actually throw it farther than maybe Brazel can go get it. So,
What other picks do they have? 109, and then at 109, go take one of those project tackles that we've talked about. Go
yeah.
Markel Bell or, one of those guys down there. Um, all right, we've already talked about the Omar Cooper. We mentioned Keldrick Falk. Keldrick Falk falling all the way to 31. That's your
Hmm.
guy. Um,
Yeah.
why do you think he ends up going all the way to 31? But then how much do you love him going to Sala and the Titans there?
Yeah, I love him going. And listen, I've ripped Saleh, too much, and the Titans I've made fun of too much, and I still don't have a lot of faith in the Titans. But I definitely trust Saleh for Falk. Falk got a great landing spot. The Titans could really use Falk. That was a great trade up by the Titans to go up and get Falk. So I really like that. The reason Falk fell is consistency and production. Production was not high. Production was low. So that's going to pull you down. And the people still have a little bit of question about how much of a pure edge he is.
hmm
So he's not for everybody. That's also going to pull him down. This is probably the same reason that Reese didn't go number 2 overall, right? It's not for everybody. So
Yep.
on a different scale, Falk coming down here. Still a great landing spot for him in Tennessee. I think benefits, and made a smart move to benefit from that bit of luck they had.
Yeah, this I think Falk ended up being 27 or 20. Oh, my board's right here. How about I just pull it up and look at it? Where did I have Falk? Where did I have 30? Falk ended up being 30 on my board. Um, so I like getting him. I like anybody getting him down here way more than I like anybody getting him in the top 15. But him going to Solid just feels perfect. And we wanted Solid to get
Yeah.
his linebacker rate up at the top.
Hmm.
They didn't opt to do that. But he gets this ball of clay, 6'5", 270, 99th percentile athleticism defensive lineman that's 20 years
Hmm.
old. Yeah, give me that. That's exciting. And then the Seahawks, who would tell anybody under the sun how desperately they wanted to move out of pick 32. And then they see all these teams trading out of the first round. They see all these teams jumping them and looking around like Will Smith saying, why is nobody calling us? Why does nobody want this pick? And it's because they end up just taking a running back anyways. Everyone was like, dude, we don't need to take your pick. We know what you're gonna do. Um, this is terrible. Um, this is bad. They have they have 4 picks in their chamber. They just won a Super Bowl, so they don't have a ton of needs, right? But we went over it. Get a DB, get an edge, get a guard, get a running back somewhere. But I'm over here like do that at 181, and you're like maybe 64, maybe 96, and they do it at 32. So now they have 3 picks to take care of real positions, and they got a running back they'll play for 6 weeks before Charbonnet comes back. But how do you feel about that?
Seattle makes me laugh on so many fronts here. Oh my gosh, I just want to sit here and laugh. They amuse me so much. It reminds me, man, I've got so many comparisons, and not really none of them are flattering. It reminds me of the kid in school who the teacher's asking who wants to do something, and this kid's hand shoots up first, and he's like standing up. He's even moving to the front of the classroom to make sure the teacher sees him, and she keeps calling on other people to do it.
hmm
Yes, right. And Schneider's like he hears, oh, who wants to trade back? Boom, hand up. Oh, we're trading back. We're wide open for business. We want to trade back. We don't want this pick. We want a running back. We don't need this pick. We need out. And literally everybody is trading except the Seahawks. And it's like there's 8 or 9 trades that happen right before his pick. I think 8 of 9 trades, something like that, happened before his pick gets there. And it was like, what? 12 teams traded spots in the first round, 14. It was an insane number, and nobody trades with Seattle. And it's almost like then it almost becomes like the kid in school who wasn't popular but gets uber rich at the age of 30. And he's like, you know what? Screw you guys. I won the Super Bowl last year. I'm going to pick the running back anyway, and boom, done.
The looks on in their war room when they cut to them, they all just look so haggard. Like papers were everywhere. Like everyone had gone home. They're like, this is gonna happen. Schneider's just gonna end up taking the road. We can't get the trade.
It's going to do it. Yeah.
And they just all they were dapping everybody each other and but they felt depressed. Um Man, they probably were calling people to trade and like not even asking for stuff. Like, they were probably just like, Tennessee, will you just swap 35 for 32 with us?
Yes,
And
just that.
just so tomorrow we can have more time to try and call and trade back and get something. Um, Hilarious. Okay.
Honestly, I
Quickly.
can't I
Oh, go
can't
ahead.
quit on the Seahawks. Yeah. Honestly,
Okay.
what I think may have been happening here, because GMs lie during this time of year. They all
Right.
do. It's their business. They don't want everybody to know what they're doing. They can't let everybody know what they're doing. And Schneider's one of the best liars of the group. I have listened to his kind of off season podcast for a couple of off seasons, and heard him say things in the press one day and do the exact opposite the next day. Like, he's good at it. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if he didn't just say out publicly, yeah, we're going to trade this pick. And while he's telling his staff, I'm going to take a running back. I want Price. I'm going to take a running back. And his staff probably was calling everybody in the world and bringing trades up to Schneider. And Schneider's like, no, I'm good. We're going to take a running back. So
I like this theory. They actually were getting the trade offers and he was like, nah, I want it.
probably, like,
Um,
why wouldn't they be getting trade offers at 32, right?
let's see. Who I don't have an updated board. So 33. Who's on the clock at 33? Is it the Bills? Is it the Niners? Who made that Jets trade? The 49ers. So the 49ers are on the clock at 33. At 34 is going to be did someone trade 34? Nope, the Cardinals have 34. Who'd the Titans make that trade with? From 35? Oh, sorry,
Uh,
buddy.
yeah, too many trades. I'm not going to remember.
Too many trades. The Bills. The Bills have 35 and the Raiders have 36. If we look at the big board here, Avion Terrell, TJ Parker, Jamal McCoy, Katie McDonald, Emmanuel McNeil Warren. I think those are the like consensus, like, ooh, interesting. Those guys got left out of the
Hmm.
first round.
Right.
So we'll see where they end up. I assume they will be called very quickly. I mean, TJ Parker might go 33 to the
Hmm.
Niners.
You
If
might.
34 is the Cardinals, that would be an interesting McNeil Warren team. They have, but because Jalen Thompson, their safety, just went to Dallas, so maybe they just go grab a safety that's similar to their All Pro they got there, or maybe they want to get Katie McDonald, or maybe they swing at Jamal McCoy. That would be 2 years in a row, right? Will Johnson falls because of injury concerns, and Jamal McCoy falls because of injury concerns. They take two swings on
Right.
that. Um, 35 we just said went from Tennessee to Buffalo. Buffalo could get Terrell. They could get Kaden McDonald, be a run stuffer. They could get a wide receiver here, maybe a Denzel Boston, a corner, Colton Hood. And then 36, the Raiders. They could get a guard. They could go get uh Pregnon or Basantis right there at 36. Um, how far can I go off the cuff here? 37. Where's 37? I feel like I'm messing up the picture on here. Whatever, I won't keep doing that. Anything else for you? Oh, actually, why do you think we had all those trades from the top ones are easy to kind of talk about, but from 20 down, why do you think we had so many teams trying to trade out?
Yeah, it I think it's modern. I feel like today's general managers have realized that this is not new, right? This just
Mm,
might be I don't know if it's the most, but it's a lot, right? Today's general managers have figured out there's no harm in trading up if you like a guy. There's no harm in trading back if you're trying to fill out multiple roster spots. It's just about finding a partner. Man, even as recently as 10 years ago, these teams didn't want to trade this much, right? It was like, well, we'll probably stay where we are. Unless we're really offered a lot. These guys have kind of established the currency of trading very well. They've opened to me, it's no different than offensive coordinators being willing to run these offenses differently than they did 20 years ago. Just a willingness to do it. I really feel like that's the
hmm
big thing. Man, if you got guys up there that you want, go get them. There's people that want more picks that need them, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
So find your partner, move.
Yeah. As good teams trade picks for good players, they then want to buy those picks back in some way. And they do that by trading down. And then the teams that are bad that want to get the last couple good players in the draft, they trade up. So I think that makes sense. The last big picture question I was going to ask you was
Plus, sorry,
how?
last thought
Oh
on
yeah,
that. It's also cheaper right here at the end of the first round, man. When you're
yes.
talking about trading from, you know, 5-1 or 12-6, it's really expensive. It's fairly inexpensive. All of a sudden now you're just trading currency to move from 32 to 27. It's a lot cheaper to do it. So that's why we're seeing so much at those ranges too.
Sonny Weaver Jr. had to check with his cap specialist when they moved from 7 to 1. He had to make sure they had enough under the salary cap. So that makes sense. Um, Last thing, how sick are the Bengals that they traded 10? Because I said not thinking, running all their mocks, running all their scenarios. Defensive guy's not going to follow us. We've got to trade for a defensive player. And then Ruben Bain and Caleb Downs were both there. Do you think they feel that way, or do you think this was more about Lawrence than it was about not knowing how the board was going to fall?
I honestly feel what you said the second time here. I feel like somebody in that Bengals room, really wanted Lawrence and really felt like they needed to fill that spot. So I don't think they're looking back here.
Yeah.
But man, I'm not trying to slam the Bengals. I wouldn't have done that deal in the first place. Man, we've run the mocks 1,000 times. We knew somebody was going to be sitting there at 10,
hmm
defensive or not. And we figured there was a good chance it would be Downs or Delane possibly sitting there. But if not them, then that would mean that one of the defensive linemen had fallen, more than likely. So, I don't know that the Bengals did their math here necessarily, but their math must have been on Lawrence and willing to pay him. Being willing to pay him shows you that they really did want him pretty badly.
Yeah. All right, that's gonna do it for us. We're giving this under 90 minutes. We did a Ben mock draft. Good Lord, no more mock drafts. Uh, the NFL draft, first round is in the books. Again, on this channel, under the shorts section, you can see Austin Freed's live reactions to each pick as they came in. Ben and I hopped on about 30 minutes after pick 32 was announced, so still kind of a live reaction to the entire first round. But stay tuned, stay subscribed, comment, reach out, follow the individual shows, part of Box Score Network, because for the next several weeks, you will still be getting recaps and analysis of this draft. So don't worry, we will give you everything you are looking for. But that's going to do it for us tonight and for this weekend. Ben, thank you for all of your work all draft season long. It was a fun night. Thank you to everybody on Box Score Network. Thank you to everybody for watching and listening to this show and sticking with us as we prepped for the draft. And hopefully you stick around for the back end of it as we recap and have some fun with it. So thank you all so much. We will talk to you again soon. Have a good one.